highly unlikely to become a 2023 fantasy commodity is Trey Lance because his team continues its public turning on him. They still seem to think he's a nice young man, so they're not turning on him in that regard, but they just don't seem to be a big fan of the Trey Lance quarterbacking. 49ers GM John Lynch said Monday that Brock Purdy is basically going to be the week 1 starter if he's healthy. Luckily for Trey Lance, we don't know if he's going to be healthy. But, like, also unluckily for Trey Lance, he basically left the door open to a trade where he did the classic, like, GM thing, listen, we answer every phone call, man. Except for they never, ever say that when it's someone they don't want to trade.
No.
Basically admitting they were open for business on Trey Lance, which – I mean, do you think the situation has deteriorated to the point for Trey Lance where even if Brock Purdy's not healthy, Trey Lance won't be starting and then it'll be Sam Darnold in week 1? Or do you think that if Purdy's not ready, they'll give Lance one last ride?
I think Shanahan would do anything to never have Trey Lance drop back again in the night.
It does seem that way. It's just why did they make this move?
He doesn't like Trey Lance the way he fits. I'm sure maybe he likes him personally, whatever. He seems to be a hard worker. He lives in the team facility, apparently, according to 49ers beat writers. So this is not a knock on Trey Lance. In fact, I kind of hope he goes elsewhere so he gets a chance to shine. Like he gets a chance to show what he can do as a rusher. Maybe he improves as a passer. And I know he only played 2 games last year. I get that, but buddy, those 2 games were awful. Yeah. I'm talking like off the charts bad as far as accuracy, as far as passing efficiency.
And he does have a family. I mean,
it was it was frightening, I think, from a fantasy standpoint. Not if you drafted Lance, because you say, okay, it doesn't matter. This guy's going to rush for 100 yards and a touchdown, whatever. I'll be fine. But if you drafted Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, anybody in that offense, you said, well, it's over. Like I might as well not even look at my team anymore because this offense is going to be horrendous, this passing offense. I don't think there's any way that Shanahan falls back on Lance, even if Purdy's not ready, which is a good possibility considering the extent of his injury.
I'm not a Lance truther, but I do know a Lance truther would point out driving rainstorm in Chicago in week 1. They were basically playing a tropical depression. And week 2 broke his leg, didn't he?
I'm not, counting that against him.
I know. But like
before the broken leg, it wasn't good.
The bigger problem is just not what he's done on the field, because plenty of young quarterbacks have looked horrible in their first 5 or 6 career starts or whatever. It is just the total lack of commitment from the 49ers.
Yeah, that's right.
They're already saying about Brock Purdy, which is what they would never, ever say about Trey Lance last year even. Like, they kind of committed to him, but like, it was, as people remember, it was like as half-hearted as could possibly be. Everything was always kind of qualified and vague. And like, then they didn't trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, some people will say that's because Jimmy Garoppolo made himself impossible to trade by the way he timed his surgery. But they've already gone in harder on Brock Purdy, I think, this offseason than they did on Trey Lance last offseason when they had to start Trey Lance.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seems like they think that this was a massive, massive blunder. And Kyle Shanahan weeps himself to sleep every night wondering why he didn't draft Mac Jones.
I will say that I would still want to draft Trey Lance in like best ball drafts while his fate is unknown, because I think there's a pretty good shot, according to what we heard today and just generally what they say about Lance, that he ends up starting elsewhere next year. And he's a highly mobile, very good running quarterback. That means a lot, obviously, in fantasy. I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know. So I'm not saying that he's like a dead letter for fantasy. In fact, things could be really good for him for fantasy coming up.
I doubt next year, though. He just seems like the classic now. He's just got to get in a good program, because as we already knew coming into the NFL, he had played frighteningly little football.
Yeah,
where he barely played in college. Now in 2 years, he's barely even played in the NFL. And it seems like he basically needs to get Jordan Loved, where he needs to like go sit on like a good scheme for 3 years and just like learn. And it's a really bad, bleak situation for Trey Lance, despite the dual threat. Like he's got big issues. And I'm not counting. I wouldn't be drafting Trey Lance in best ball draft.
No?
I'll say that. No, I really wouldn't. I don't think he's gonna. I think he's gonna start like 3 or 4 games in 2023.
What if he lands in Tampa? He's starting 16 games in Tampa.
No, I feel like that's the classic where he'll like get hurt. Like, it's a horrible offensive line. Like, he'll be asked to do way too much. He really needs to, I think, be a backup on a good team. If he ends up in Tampa, like a situation where there's like gonna be like expectations, he needs to be somewhere where there's like no expectation. I mean, there's no expectations for the Bucs in general in 2023, but like he's going to be expected. He needs to be somewhere where he's not expected to lead the offense, I think, in 2023, because it's just going to be a horrible, horrible situation.
I'm trying to think of where that could be. I'm having trouble.
He needs to like go be the backup for like Sean McVay or something.
Yeah, I kind of had that thought too.
He really needs to be on a Kyle Shanahan. Wait, crap.
We'll edit that out. Don't worry.
We will edit that out because yikes, he was with the guy that he needed to be with, and it didn't work at all.
Didn't work. But Brock Purdy is literally perfect for the Shanahan offense. So
he is, except for it's gonna fail hard, man. It's gonna fail so. Yeah. I mean, people forget Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard both looked good for like 4 games. And like he's really good at making like 7th rounders cool for like a month. But there's a reason why he became obsessed with the idea of getting a franchise quarterback and did something so risky for Trey Lance. It's because he understood there are limits to that approach.
But have you considered the dog levels in Brock Purdy?
I know that Geno Smith said it's not a real stat, but the number of turnover-worthy plays from Brock Purdy that were not turnovers was mega yikes.
It was. You came away. I came away thinking, oh, the box score will reflect that Brock Purdy turned the ball over 8 times today, and it would be 0 instead of
always 0. He kept getting away with it, and apparently has convinced Sean McVay.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.